This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching.
What's up, everyone? I am Josue Crimz Rojano, and with me is Kyle Pooka Sucevich, and we are here in the finals of the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Pokemon TCG Regional Championships. We have been following Bryan since the top 8, and he's made it all the way to the finals, and he's now facing Michael Skoran in the finals, and Michael is actually playing the Zekrom Eelektrik deck that's been destroying tournaments for a while now.
Yeah, by far, Zekrom Eelektrik has been the most successful deck at states and regionals, and no surprise to see one in the finals here. But to this point, Philadelphia has been CMT Central. We've seen one in pretty much every top cut round that we've casted, and Dylan's still here. He has had a magical run all the way through the tournament, beating on players like Sam Chen and then Nick in the past round, and now Michael here. And both these players are actually doing very well this season. They're both actually in the top 10 for championship points, so this should be a very, very good matchup. Now, we did have to start during Michael's first turn, so we saw an N. He's got a couple Dynamos and a Clef out there, and he's junk arming for Level Ball, and really a good start for him. He's got 2 Lightning in the discard pile already.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of start that he wants to get. It's interesting to see that he's actually running Cleffa in his deck. Not very many decks do this anymore. Choosing to play another 30 HP Pokemon in his deck, but it's fine because now he's actually going to be able to take advantage of the Yeek.
Yeah, and, this is a situation where Clef is actually going to come in handy. Like you said, we do not see the little guy very often anymore, especially now that Tyrogue is seeing so much play. But Michael's still running him, and it's going to help him out here.
Now, we saw Dylan have a second Celebi on his bench. Now, he attached an energy onto his bench Celebi, switched onto the new Celebi, and now plays N. So what that means is he's going to be able to Force Breath again, and hopefully he's going to be able to draw his way out of this kind of pitiful hand.
They had an awkward spot there where Michael hadn't drawn his cards for Eek yet, and then Dylan just said, well, I'm just going to play N, so you're going to have to shuffle in and draw 6 anyway, and you just want to draw 6 and call it a day. And Michael's like, no, I'll draw my 6, then we'll shuffle, we'll do it again. So they're going by the book, I guess.
All right, well, that's fine. Either way, they're going to get this solved. And it'll be interesting to see what Dylan can actually pull off here. Obviously, his start is not good at all, but ideally, he'll be able to get a Tornadus into play and Force Breath onto it. And the fact that he's got an energy on this Celebi means that A, he'll be able to retreat if he needs to, or B, he'll be able to move this energy around with Shaman if he actually gets a Skyro Bridge later on. All so right. We see a dual ball from him, and he gets 2 heads.
Yeah, now we know Dylan does play Tyrogue in his deck, so this is going to be really important when Michael has 4 30-hit point Pokemon on the field. Dylan, if it's in his deck, which it might not be, if Tyrogue is here, he'll be able to take a prize immediately. And it looks
Tyrogue's
like it is.
Right there, yeah.
So, Tyrogue is a card that really gained popularity again because of Zekrom Eelektrik, because of these 30-hit point Dynamos that are everywhere. And we're going to see the power of Tyrogue here. It's going to be a really big deal. He actually grabs Bouffalant as well. So, the CMT player really needs to take prizes early on. If they can prevent the Electrics from getting into play, they'll be in a great spot to win the game. But if Michael can set up quickly before Dylan takes, a couple prizes, then Michael will be at a big advantage because cards like Zekrom and Thundurus are just better than Tornadus.
Yeah. Now, this is the reason that people don't play Cleffa is because, not necessarily because of Tyrogue, but because it's so fragile. And it's going to put him behind already by 1 prize. And Dylan didn't even have to really attach too many energies to his Pokemon to be able to do this in the first place. So now he plays an energy retrieval and gets an energy onto his Bouffalant as well. So Dylan's in great shape right now, and he takes the prize lead.
Yeah, now Michael does have 3 Dynamos in play. He does have 2 Lightning in his discard pile. So if he gets some absurd hand with, a couple Electrics and then powers up Thundurus, Dylan's going to be in a lot of trouble. But if he doesn't get an attack off this turn, you got to think Dylan has a catcher, can knock out another Dynamo with his Tyrogue, and he'll be just fine. So this is going to be a pretty big turn for Michael if he can stop the bleeding now. And oh, he's got a Tyrogue, so he'll be able to at least take a prize.
Exactly. Um, what's interesting here is that the Boufflant, which I tend to make fun of, is actually extremely good, especially in this matchup. It's actually made for this matchup, or at least it's put into the deck for this matchup. Because even if your opponent does get this incredible start with, say, an Eelektrik or two, you still have an ability to be able to knock out an Eelektrik immediately after it comes into play, and for only a couple of energies. So it's a very good attack. It's a very good Pokemon, especially against this matchup.
Yeah, Boufflant does the magic 90 to any Eelektrik, so really good card for a low energy attack, which when you're playing CMT, you want really efficient attackers that take little energy and do their job pretty well. So Michael actually realizes, oh, that's a Boufflant. My Thundurus can't knock that out, so he goes for Zekrom instead of the Thundurus, which would only do 80 to Boufflant. So I like that he recognized that. He's going to power up Zekrom, I would think. Junk Arms for an Eelektrik, and I think he's actually used quite a few Junk Arms already, which is not good this early in the game.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for him, but he does get an Eelektrik on turn 2, which is something that he definitely wanted to do. And with 3 energies in the discard pile, he's going to be able to just get a consistent energy engine going, especially now that he plays a Juniper. If he can get another Eelektrik into play, he's going to put himself in a great spot.
Yeah, speaking of double, we got another level ball, and this is pretty much a perfect start for Michael. Turn 2, double Eelektrik, 3 lightning in the discard pile. He'll be able to power up whatever he wants. He could even get a turn 2 Bolt Strike, which is really scary for the CMT deck. I'm sure he won't do that this turn, but anytime you're facing down a Zekrom starting turn 2, that is just not good.
Absolutely. Now we do see him attach a double colorless to his Zekrom, and he's probably going to be... he Dynamotors onto the Thundurus. So it's kind of interesting to me. I would have liked to see him Dynamotor onto at least 1 energy onto the Zekrom and 1 onto the Thundurus, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think it makes too big of a difference as long as he has a lightning in his hand next turn to use Bolt Strike. And things not going so well for Dylan now. He got 2 tails in that dual ball. He's actually got a Junk Arm for a dual ball, which is never a good thing.
But he does get that 1 head, so at least he didn't get incredibly unlucky here. And he finds a Mewtwo.
Oof.
So now he plays an head.
Dylan, and this is kind of a problem you can get into with CMT versus the Zekrom Eelektrik deck. You can be forced into going Mewtwo way before you want to. And if you don't get that crucial 2-prize lead, Mewtwo is just going to be a liability eventually when the Zekrom Eelektrik player gets their own Mewtwo, and you're going to be on the bad side of prize trades.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dylan realizes this, but he also realizes that his opponent has 2 Electrics in play. So he needs to find a way to really put some sort of pressure on his opponent. And right. As good as Boufflant is, it doesn't really do much against this type of a setup.
But he will be able to eliminate one of the Electrics if he got some way to move Celebi to the bench, and then a catcher and an energy. But if he doesn't, and if he doesn't get a prize this turn, I gotta think he's in a ton of trouble. But looks like he does. He puts double colorless on his Mewtwo, actually opting to target down Dynamo instead of going for an Eelektrik. What do you think about that?
It's got me a little shell shocked. I definitely don't think this is the right play. I'm not really sure what else I can say about this. I would prefer to take out an Eelektrik almost 100% of the time, just because now he's putting his Mewtwo at risk, and his opponent can easily take advantage of this situation.
Yeah, so we will see another Junk Arm going for a dual ball, and I'm sure this is going to be for Mewtwo. Now, the problem for Michael is there's only 1 Lightning in his discard pile. He took 2 of them last turn with Dynamotor. So he's only going to be able to Dynamotor once to his Mewtwo. That's going to force him to have either a Lightning and a plus power or a double colorless in order to X-Ball for a knockout here. And if he whiffs, that would be a big deal.
Oh, yeah, you're telling me. Now let's try to figure this out. He's going to be okay. He's going to attach double colorless to his Mewtwo. Now he's going to be able to knock out his opponent's Mewtwo. Dylan's obvious response here would be to get into a Mewtwo war, which is ideally what Dylan would like to do because he plays more Mewtwo's than his opponent. But his opponent's going to be taking a big prize lead right now.
Yeah, in this situation, Dylan is actually in a pretty bad spot if he wants to go for a Mewtwo War. Um, he'll be able to go down to 2 prizes. First of all, if he pulls this off, he actually does not have a Sky Arrow Bridge in play yet, so still no free retreat for Selby. But if he did get into this Mewtwo War, then Michael could just catcher one of his Selbys or even the Bouffalant, get down to 2 prizes, and then he'd be able to knock out Dylan's Mewtwo for the last 2 prizes. And since he doesn't have an EX in play past his first Mewtwo, well, Dylan doesn't really have a way to win. So the ball's in Michael's court. Dylan has just got to kind of hope, and he's got to hope for a lot of stuff to go his way.
Yeah, well, Dylan just drew his cards off his new theory, so the hoping started as he was drawing. Let's see if he actually got an answer here.
Yeah, like I said, there's still no Sky Arrow Bridge, so he's going to need one of those or a switch just to get Celebi out of the active spot. And then beyond that, he needs an energy. If he has Mewtwo, he's going to need a double colorless or 2 grass. If he doesn't, he's probably going to attach to Bouffalant and catch out an Eelektrik or something. And really, he needs a lot of stuff. And then it really doesn't solve anything for him. He's still going to be behind.
He's going for the energy retrieval with his Junkrum, I think. So he finds his energy, sort of. And he does have to Junkrum into an energy retrieval. I believe he's played multiple Junkrums already, so he's running low on resources. The energy retrieval, or the Junkrum, was just used to find himself 1 energy. This is just not good news at all for Dylan, obviously. And his opponent can really take advantage here.
He does hit the Mewtwo for 90, which will set it up for a Hurricane next turn from Tornadus. The last card in his hand was a Juniper, so not a dead hand by any means. But yeah, he's going to go down 2 prizes, and then if he misses the knockout on the Mewtwo next turn, that's going to be big. Even if he doesn't, Michael's going to be there with Thundurus or Zekrom to follow up. He's going to get down to 1 prize, and then Dylan's going to need the energy for another attacker, and then Michael's probably going to be prepared for it. So really not a good spot for Dylan, but you never know with N in the format. Games can get weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been piloting this Zekrom Eelektrik deck pretty much all season, give or take. Is this how your matchups against this CMT deck actually go all the time? Because this actually seems like kind of a blowout.
Well, if you get set up this quickly, it clearly is a blowout. Your attackers are just so much better. Zekrom and Thundurus, they match up too well against Tornadus, who's weak to Lightning. And then it just kind of forces your opponent to go into Mewtwo, which doesn't always work out very well. So if you can get set up before you give up those initial 2 prizes or something like that, you are almost always going to win this matchup. The problem is Dynamo is extremely weak. You either have 30 or 40 hit points on it. CMT can target that down immediately, and if you don't stabilize by the 2nd or 3rd turn, you can find yourself in a deep hole, and that's when your opponent can just go ahead with Mewtwo and close the game out. So it's really on the Zekrom Eelektrik player to set up quickly, and the CMT deck to put on a lot of pressure early. If the CMT deck can't get ahead, it usually does not win.
Yeah. Now, I was the one that was piloting the CMT deck, and I was the one that was kind of in Dylan's shoes quite a bit this season, at least for the few times I did pilot this deck. Your opponent, when he gets the Electrics out, the Dynamotor is just too much of an advantage. And the fact that your opponent can actually use Thundurus so effectively, it's such an efficient attacker against Tornadus, obviously, and it comes into play. So if you don't have a way to really take advantage of your opponent's fighting weakness, then you're going to be in a bad spot, and you're going to be forced to get into these Mewtwo wars just by necessity, and your opponent can take advantage of that.
All right, so Dylan responded to Mewtwo with Mewtwo, and now the game's over. So that's just how quickly Mewtwo wars can end. They are very short and very brutal. And we'll move on to game 2.
Yep, here we go.
All right, so Michael takes game 1. We'll see if Dylan can come back, or will Michael be the regional champion for Philadelphia? Tune in for game 2 and find out.